Hello there good people, what is up? Welcome, my name is Marco and I'm a full stack developer. In today's video I want to create a Twitter clone. Of course it's going to be the MVP, the foundation, the basic functionalities of Twitter. As you know, Twitter is in fact an application, but I'm going to build a web application, so a website. Now this project in particular is extremely important for a beginner's web developer. First of all, it's a full stack application. And again, you need to manage the front-end side as well as the back-end side. Then you need to add something more, which is a database. For this project, I'm going to use a non-relational database, in particular MongoDB. And also you will learn something fundamental in web development, which is AJAX. This video is inspired by the Coding Train and Coding Garden collaboration video. You will find a link in the description. In that video, they created a Twitter clone and they called it Meower, Twitter for cats. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out. It's absolutely amazing. I think Daniel Schiffman is just a genius, really a genius. For me personally, I am more of a dog person, so I'm gonna create a Twitter for dogs, Barker. Now, this project is extremely ambitious and I decided to split it in three parts. This first part is going to deal with the front end, especially the markup and the styling, so the HTML and the CSS part. In the second part, I will build the server side, so I will manage the API, the database, the schema, the connections, and also I will add all those front-end functionalities with JavaScript, mainly AJAX. Finally, in the third part, I will add some little details and all those functionalities that can improve my application, like tags, hashtags, etc. You'll see. So if you want to see it all, make sure to check them all out. I'm going to upload them weekly. As I said, this application is going to have the basic functionalities of Twitter. You can send a tweet, I'm going to call it a bark, woof woof, not longer than 140 characters, and then a name, and that's it. This being said, I think we can start. As I said, in this first part, I'm just going to focus on the HTML and the CSS. So let's follow me. Okay, so I'm in my folder and I'm gonna create two more folders. As always, my client folder, which is gonna have all the front-end stuff, front-end documents, and also my server folder for the server related stuff. Now in the client, I'm gonna create the public folder, which is gonna have all the CSS, the JavaScript, and the images, basically the static files, then the views. This is my organization. I like to do it this way, but of course you don't have to. It's always nice to separate the client side from the server side, especially if you are developing a full stack application. Okay, so let's go in the client side, and in the views folder, I'm gonna create my index.html. Perfect, beautiful. Now in the public, I'm gonna have my, we can call it index.js, as well as style.css. Okay, now I want to test this every time so that I'm sure that I'm connecting the right thing. It's just some basic stuff to be sure. Okay, so let's start creating the HTML. And for now, I'm just gonna do something very basic. Just say, let's call it Barker. And I'm gonna say in H1, I'm working. Yappa, yoo-hoo. Okay. Now let's use live server to see it live. Perfect, it's working. Of course, there is no link to the CSS, so it's not working properly in that regard. Let's split screen so that I can see live what I'm doing. Okay, let's start adding the link for the CSS, and it's one folder up, so it's like this, the public, and then style.css. And of course, I also want to import the CSS. It's always one folder up in the index.js. Beautiful. Okay, this is working. If I inspect this, the console log, Yeah, I'm working, perfect. The links work. I think this is a good start. Let's get rid of all of this and save it. Good, so now I want to start adding the things. First thing I'm gonna do is give it a header, because why not? In this header, just gonna use an h1, and we call it Barker. Twitter for dogs, because we love dogs. We also love cats, but you know, dogs in particular, beautiful. Now, after this, I'm gonna have a main. Just, it can act as a container, as whatever, but just to be sure that I'm working in something that I can manipulate and control to be responsive. So now I want to add a form. In this form, if I can do it, there's not gonna be any action. And this is just gonna be the form where I can create the tweet. It's gonna have a class, and this is gonna be Bark form. In this form, I'm going to have two inputs, basically the name and the tweet itself. Now, I want to provide a label, and I also want to provide the input. So now this is gonna be the actual Bark. I think I can name it like this. Why not? Can I? No, this is not the Bark, this is the name. The username or whatever. Good. And so this label will be for the name. And it's gonna be name. Why not? This label is going to be for the Bark itself. And this time, instead of an input, I'm gonna use a text area because it's just more suited for this. And this now is going to be the content, the actual content. I think I can call it bar content, but yeah, who cares? Is it possible? Okay. Let's save and let's see what it looks like. Okay. I think these other things will just be by default. I can actually give it a max length. I could. I think there is a max length of 140 characters in on Twitter, and I want it required so that, you know, and the name is required as well. And this is just an HTML kind of thing to prevent the form to be submitted like empty. The last thing I need is a button to submit, so the button by default is gonna be a submit button, and I'm just gonna put send. Let's put some color here, I don't know. Let's put a dog. Why not? I like this dog. Yeah. And in here I'm gonna be, I don't know, I'm gonna use this one. It looks cute. Let's save it, and yeah, okay, I got my button. And if I try and do it like this, okay, this is basically HTML telling me that I cannot send it empty, which is fine. Outside my form, I can actually have another div, or I can do it a section. Let's make a div with the bar container. So this is going to be the thing that is going to basically contain all the tweets, all the barks. Call it whatever you want. Now inside here, I want to create the single bark, so I'm just going to call it bark like this. In here, I'm going to have, let's put in an h3, and this is going to be the name, like test user or whatever. After test user, I can have another div that needs to specify, of course, with bar content. This is actually the content of the tweet. In here, I'm gonna have a paragraph with some lorem ipsum for now. Okay, and I can have a span, which is basically just a single. It's very similar to a div, but it's an inline kind of object. So it's not occupying the whole space, but just the content it has. And I can put the date. So let's put today, which is the 29th of August, 2021. Let's see what it looks like. It's fine. Now let's try and copy this like multiple times. So if I do this, Shift Alt and arrow down, I should have 3 tweets. Okay, now this looks ugly, of course, but I think I have the main markup for the application. I have my form here, the labels, the button, the title. I think I have everything. So now it's the time for some CSS. Okay, I hope you can see it better now. So first thing first, I like to just select all the elements and the pseudo elements. So the before and the after. And just remove the margin, the padding, and give it a box sizing of border box. Beautiful. This should exactly do something like this. Then I'm gonna specify some custom property, so some variables. You can do that in CSS, and you usually set it to the root, and this is the standard declaration. So I want the color to be like a blue, and I'm gonna copy paste this because I like it. I think blue is one of my favorite colors, if not the favorite colors. I'm gonna have a dark blue, and this is just going to be a darkened version of this one, and I'm probably gonna use it for the overstates and stuff, because why not? Another color that I can have is, I don't know, a background. Let's put a background to the bark, or to the individual tweet. Let's put this very light gray. Perfect. Now I can start working on the body. So on the body, I want a particular font, and for this I'll probably use Google Fonts, and I've chosen the Open Sans because it's cool. I tend to choose sans serif fonts for this kind of things because they are easier to read and manage. From here, I want to select the 300. I want to select the regular, of course, and the bold 700. Beautiful. Now I have it. I can copy paste this into my HTML. I just go here above the link here. Beautiful. And in the CSS, I just have to copy paste this. So I'm gonna have my body. Of course, it's already there. Beautiful. Okay, so now I should see if I save this, the font coming through, and it is. Okay, well, it looks nice. Come on. After that, I want to set a standard size for the body, which is 16 pixels. This is going to be my 1 rem. And then I can put everything I want actually. But for now, I'm just gonna leave it like this. Now, let's style the header, which is this part over here. So let's grab it, let's select it, and I can specify a width. And what I like to do in here is use the min syntax. It's basically a CSS function, which is going to pick the smallest of the two members. And you can put like 90%, and you can also put pixels. So basically this means whatever is smaller between 90% and 160 pixel. And of course I want it like in the center, and this is usually how you do it. But I can start and put in like 2 rams here. Why not? Actually, I'm gonna use m. M is not a relative to the root, but it's relative to the actual parent element. So it's always going to be the same because the parent element just inherits from the body. So in this case, it's the same. And I can align it in the center. Let's see what it looks like. Perfect. It's starting to look like a little bit more human friendly. Nice. Okay, now I want to select the main, which is basically what's containing all of this. Okay, and I'm gonna set a width as well to make it a bit more what would you say, responsive. So here, same 160 pixel. Perfect. So now basically the header and the main are going to have the same width, and I'm gonna give it a margin. Let's do it 5em auto, so that is fairly spaced from the header, and so also auto is basically from the side, left and right, and it's gonna center it. So it's like this. Beautiful. So I got this space right above here, and I'm gonna give it a space to the form as well, and then to the container as well. Beautiful. Now let's grab the bark form, and I'm gonna give it a width, of course. In this case, I'm gonna give it a 100% and 600 pixel. So 100% of the element it is embedded in. In this case, the form is in the main div, is in the main tag. Since the main is never gonna grow beyond this 90%, basically this is going to inherit that width, basically. And the form is never gonna be bigger than 600 pixel. I just think it's fair. I want it center, of course, all the time. And for this, I'm gonna use a flex box. So I'm gonna give it a display flex, and by like default is in a row, so just like this. But I want it in a column type of layout, so that everything is one above the other. So that is like this exactly. And I can also give it a gap, 20 pixel. I think gap is supported basically in every browser now, maybe not in Internet Explorer, but this, yes, exactly. It's basically like this. Beautiful. Now I want to style the input, because definitely this is not a very good, like, nice looking input. I can give it a padding of 15 pixel all around. And one thing you have to do with the inputs is give it a font family of inherit, because I have no idea why, but they don't have the font family you set up in the body for whatever reason, and so you have to specify it. So it looks like this. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. What I can do actually in the HTML, I can give it a placeholder. So that is kind of, and I can say, I don't know, enter your name. Yep. Let's see if the font is what I expect. Is it? That's a little bit smaller. Okay, so let's go to the style and let's say that the font size needs to be 1 rem. Okay, now we're talking. Perfect. Now I want to style the text area, which is basically this thing. One property of this is that I can resize it. Okay, and this is the property of all text areas. But what I don't want is, first of all, to expand it, to resize it on a horizontal direction. I allow vertical resizing until a certain point. Considering that this is like 140 characters, it's not going to be super tall. So let's say that the resize is just vertical. If I save it now, I can resize it like vertically but not horizontally, which is fine. I'm gonna give it a padding as well of 15 pixels just to be consistent, and a font family inherit so that I can see that beautiful font coming through. And I can say font size 1 rem as well. Beautiful. So if I now write something, hello there. Beautiful. Nice. Okay, now the mean height of this is specified in the index.html, where you see like the rows. I can increase it. I can like the 18. It's gonna be taller, a lot taller. 10. But you can also manipulate it in the CSS. So if I want to have a specific height, I can put a height of I don't know, 200 pixel, and it's just gonna give it a height of 200 pixel. But I'm not gonna do that. So that is a bit more responsive. What's left? Well, the button. This button is very, very ugly. So what I'm gonna give it, first of all, I always get rid of the border because I don't like it. I give a border radius of, I don't know, not too radical, and a background color of that beautiful blue. This is the syntax you have to use to access variables in CSS. So you just use var and then the name of the variable. And I can give it a max width actually. Let's give it a max width, because right now it's taking the whole width of the form, and I don't know, it's kind of weird. Let's give it a 100 pixel. I don't want it to be too much. Maybe this is not enough. I don't know, 240 pixel. This is seriously something that you can just spend an entire day just styling a button, and it's not what I want to do. Then the color of the font is going to be white, and the font weight is going to be bold. I've downloaded the 700 so I can have access to it. The font size is going to be, let's put it, I don't know, 2 rem. Maybe it's too much. Yeah, it's a bit too much. 2.5. Yeah, I like it. Why not? Now I want to have padding, and I can have a padding of EM top and bottom, and 7.5 left and right. Let's see what it looks like. Oh my god, that's a bit too much. Let's put 1M. Yeah, it's looking better. Now I want a cursor pointer, so that I have my little hand coming out when I hover it. And of course I want a margin like 0 auto, so that it's centered. Beautiful. Oh, that size is coming through now. Oh, it's a min width, that's why. Okay. Beautiful. Now let's style it a little bit more. And let's add overstate. For the overstate, I'm just gonna select the background color, and it's going to be that dark blue. And for this, I want to give it a transition. So let's give it a transition. Select the background color. Let's do a 3.3 seconds is, and if I go over it, yeah, I should do something like this. Does it do it? Actually, if I put it also on the over right here, it should do it both ways. Nah, it's doing the same thing. Get rid of it. Beautiful. What can I do? What I can do is also transform the text with text transform, and I'm gonna use an uppercase. So that is uppercase with my little doggy right here. Whoop, whoop. Beautiful. Okay. Select this, I select this. Nice. Okay, now that we have this, we need to style the container, which is basically the one that is containing all the tweets. So let's select it, and I named it bar container. Bar container. And this is, of course, is going to have a margin. Why not? Let's do something radical. Let's work with the spacing here. Might be too much, but I think it's right. So that I have like this empty space. White space is quite important in web design. I never quite was able to use it as I wanted to, but like the space here, space on the sides, and between the forms, inputs and stuff, it's quite important. For this, I'm going to use, instead of flexbox, I'm going to use grid, which is very powerful in this case. And what I need to do is just specify like the template for the columns. And to do that, you just do like grid template columns. So basically, how many columns will my grid have? And if I put 1fr, I'm basically putting one column that it's occupying one fraction, basically the entire space. But if I did this, like 1fr, 1fr, I would have two columns, each one occupying one fraction. I can even do something like this, like 200 pixel. Now one column is gonna be, I'm gonna have one column, and its width is going to be 200 pixel. For this, I'm gonna use fr, and it's not gonna change anything at all because I'm gonna have one column as always. But now I need to have the rows. And for this, I want to generate it like automatically because I don't know how many tweets I'm gonna have. If the user starts inserting more and more tweets, I'm gonna have more and more rows. So I cannot specify 4 or 5 or 6 rows. But for this, I can use properties or a function which is called min-max, which takes two arguments, the minimum size and the maximum size. Super easy. So my rows would be just automatically laid out, and their size is never gonna be smaller than 150 pixel, never larger than one fraction. So I'd say that this is fantastic. And then I'm also gonna give it a gap because gap exists for CSS grid as well. Let's work with the spacing. Let's see if 30 pixel is enough. Yes, you know what? I like it. I absolutely like it. And if I inspect this, I should see my bar container, and it's a grid. And as you can see, I have the margin top and bottom, and the individual bar is like this, and then I got the gap in between. Beautiful. Now let's style the individual bar. So basically this. Now what I want to have here is, of course, some padding. I have to spell it correctly. Putting padding like this, it's basically setting top, bottom, it's going in a clockwise direction, so top, right, bottom, left, and everywhere is 15 pixel. But if you put something like this, it's gonna be the first part top and bottom, the second part left and right. Or you can specify like this. And this in a clockwise manner is top, right, bottom, left. So I just want 15 pixel all around. And then I'm gonna use a display flex because I have multiple elements inside and I want them to be displayed in a column, which actually is. You know what? It's redundant. I honestly don't need this. Beautiful. Now I should have my bark, individual bark with my padding. Yes, the green part is the padding. Beautiful. Now let's style the H3. I think it was it? Yeah, H3, which is basically the name of the user. And I'm just going to, what can I do with it? Let's put a cursor pointer. This is going to come in handy for later when you want, maybe you read the tweet by test user and you want to read all the tweets, all his tweets, and so you just click on it so that I can like attach an event listener, but that's for later stuff, the more complex stuff. Now the most important thing I think is the bar content, because now we have two things, which is the P paragraph, which is this one, and the span, which is going to have the date. So here I can have a background. I want it to be, I want it to have contrast. Like this is too empty, so I'm gonna give it a background color of I think I use the gray. Yeah, bark background. It's got exactly what I want. I can give it a border radius just to be more appealing, I guess. 0.5 m. I can give it I don't know, a padding, so that if I don't give it a padding, it's always going to be like this. It's not very beautiful, is it? Like all squished in. But if I give it a padding, just to be consistent, let's always use 15 pixel. Yeah, it's, I mean, it's nicer like this, you know? Oh, and by the way, if you're plan to use always the same kind of sizing, like 15 pixels and 30 pixels, you can put this into custom property as well. You just go to the root element and you create something that is, I don't know, padding size, and you just give it 15 pixels like this. And then you can access, like if I put like this, padding size, it's basically the same thing. But right now, if I wanted to, I don't know, at a later stage change this padding space, I can just change it here and it basically does it everywhere. You can do it both ways, of course. For something like this simple, you might even hard code it all the time like this. But for now, why not? Best practices. Alright, so I think we can give it a box shadow just to be a bit more contrasty. So like this, 15 pixel is the blur, and then I give it a color with an alpha, so it is not like punching the eye. Beautiful, look at this. This is true Google style. You know what? I'm gonna give it a margin here. I don't like, they're just too close to each other. What if I do this? Yeah, I like it better, honestly. I like it better. Alright, so I think this is done. This is basically a very simple website, but if you notice, there is basically no media query right here. Nonetheless, it is fully responsive. If I do it like this, everything stays the same, doesn't overflow anywhere, and I haven't used any media query. And this is the power of the min function in CSS. This simple function are right here, because it basically picks the smallest of the two members. Now I want to style this data as well, because I don't like it right here. It's just, it looks part of the content and it's not. So if I do this and I select the span, what I can do is I want to move it on to the left to the right, so I can do a margin left of auto, and this should move it to the right. It doesn't because it's not a display block. What if I do a display block, which is kind of the no. Let's inspect this. So this pen is occupying this margin left auto. Let's remove this display block. I don't like it. Well, now it's this, but it's not moving it anyway. I don't know why. Well, let's do something simpler. Let's give it a display block and a text align of right. This should do it, should it? Yep. Okay, now it's moved to the right. Beautiful. And I can give it a font size like a little bit smaller, like 7.5 rem. And also I can give it a color, like an opacity. I can give it an opacity so that it's not as visible as the content. It's just like redundant information. You can give it a 0.8. Why not? It's a bit small. Let's do like 14 pixel. How much is 14 pixel? No, 14 pixel. 875 RAM. Yeah, I think I like it better right now, like this. Beautiful. Okay, so what I can do now is just go on a little bit, just in time, and do something like this, just adding tags. Let's try and add a tag. It's going to be in a span object. In this span object, I can actually give it an ID of, not an ID, maybe a class, of like tag link. Now I have this span and it's going to be, let's test tag, like this. And it's going to be this, which is on a new line because, oh yeah, that's why. Right now it's putting this on a new line because all the spans inside the content, thanks to my style, is going to be a display block, which is not very nice. So what I can do is actually give this span a class, like date. Actually, I'm gonna give it to all of them. This is right inside here, and this is right inside here. And I can just put it to the date class. So now, so now just this element is a display block, and this span is safe. So what I want now from a tag link, something very simple. First of all, I want the color to be different so that it's more contrasty. And I'm gonna use my good old friend blue. And then I also want a cursor pointer so that when you hover over it, it's a pointer, you can see that it's clickable. Okay, you know what? Right now it looks fine. Oh, what we can do to expand it a little bit more is, again, step further and let's add a real tag. Like this is another user, okay? And let's put this inside a tag as well. Inside a span. This is going to be not the author, but we can say a user link. Why not? Inside this user link, I'm gonna have this. So right now I'm gonna have this, just like Twitter. I'm gonna have my user link, and I'm basically gonna copy this. Can I copy it? You know what? Let's do it in a more conservative way. This, and I will have, yeah, beautiful. So this basically will be necessary in the third part of this kind of tutorial, because these are going to be our tags. And the concept is when you click over one, you'll get all the tweets with that hashtag, and this is going to be linked to the user. So if you click here, it will show you just the tweets of that particular user. This is for a later project, so make sure to check it out. It's part 3 of this same tutorial. But for now, the styling is absolutely on point. Good job. Pat on the back. Good job. Alright, this was super fun. I'm super satisfied of how it came out. It is extremely responsive, as you saw, and there is so much more that we can do. So make sure to check part 2 next week and part 3 the week after that. For this video, it is all. I hope you had fun and you could learn something in the meantime. I really hope to see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, stay tuned for more. Bye bye.